So in this video, we'll show you how to use the Trucker Trip Planner to plan your work and rest. The Trucker Trip Planner is pretty much the same as filling out your logbook, except you'll fill out the logbook as you go. But with the Trip Planner, you can plan it out in advance and use it to manage your time as you run the load. Once you determine that you have enough hours of service to run the load and have determined your start by date and time, ETA to shipper, and ETA to delivery, the time requirements will be pulled to the trip planner so you can see it while you plan. In this example, your start time is 5 o'clock a.m. to reach your pickup at 9. You have determined that you'll need one 30-minute fuel stop and will need to perform your pre-trip of 30 minutes, and your distance to your pickup is 150 miles. Once you arrive at the pickup, you'll need 30 minutes to do a drop and hook, and then you will proceed to your delivery. Along your route, you'll need to take two 30-minute breaks and two 10-hour breaks. And of course, you'll need to do a pre-trip and post-trip each day and arrive at your delivery at 4:30 a.m. Then you would drop your load, perform a post-trip inspection, and be available for a new load at 5:30 a.m. So with that information, we go back to our table of contents and open up our trip planner. And as you can see, we've already planned out this load. And again, all your time requirements was pulled to the trip planner. And as you can see, each day is totaled out in the right-hand column. Now, what we'll do now is we'll actually walk through and show you what we did in planning this load. And again, our start by time was at 5 o'clock. So as you see, what we did is showed ourselves in the off-duty status up until 5 a.m. And then we came on duty, and the 1 hour represents our pre-trip and our fuel stop. Then we drove for 3 hours and arrived at our pickup, did our pickup, and then we moved back to the drive line and started driving again for a half an hour. And then we drove an additional 2.5 hours. And at that point, we needed to go ahead and take our first 30-minute break. Then we came back onto the drive line and we drove for another 4.5 hours. We did our post trip, and then we went off duty for an additional 7 hours, correction. Okay, and as you can see, we were off duty for 11.5 hours. We drove for 10.5 hours, and we was actually in the on-duty status for 2 hours for a total of 24 hours. Okay, we stayed in the sleep or off-duty status until 3 o'clock in the morning, and at 4, we came back on duty. We did our second pre-trip, and then came back to the drive line, and we drove for 5 hours, and then we did our second 30-minute break, came back onto the drive line, and we drove for 4.5 hours more, 5.5 hours more, did our post trip, and went back to the off-duty status for a total of 9 hours. And as you can see, on the second day, we were off duty for 12.5 hours. We drove for 10.5 and was in the on-duty status for 1 hour for a total of 24. Then on the third day, we stayed off duty for an additional hour, and then we came on duty, did our third pre-trip, came back to the drive line, drove for 2 hours, and arrived at our delivery at 4:30 a.m. We did our drop, and then at 5 we came back and did our post trip, and at 5:30 we was available for a new load. Now the way we want to check ourselves to make sure everything is plotted correctly is we can see that our total drive time for this load was supposed to be 23 hours. And if we come all the way over to the right and we look at our drive line, on the first day we drove 10.5, and on the second day we drove 10.5. Add the two together, that's 21 hours. And then on the third day we drove for 2 hours. So as you can see, we met our requirement of drive time, so that worked out for us. And we should have did, along the way, we should have did 3 pre-trips. So we did a pre-trip at 5 a.m. on the first day, a pre-trip at 4 a.m. on the second day, and a pre-trip at 4 a.m. at 2 a.m. on the third day. So we did our 3 pre-trips. We did our fuel stop on the first day, and we should have done 3 total post trips. So we did a post trip at 1700 on the first day, at 1530 on the second day, and at 5 o'clock on the third day. So as you can see, we fulfilled all of the time that we predicted that we would. We began our load at 5 o'clock on the first day, and we arrived at our delivery at 4:30 a.m. on the third day, and was ready for a new load at 5:30 on the third day. Now, how you plan out your load is pretty much up to you. This is just our example of how we planned out this load. And as you can see, everything adds up. And if we follow the schedule, then we could pretty much stay on time with our load. And even if we couldn't deliver the load until, say, 9 o'clock in the morning on the third day, then we're actually putting ourselves in position so that we can actually be at our delivery, so that we can deliver this load whenever we need it to. And pretty much that's what the trip planner should look like when you complete it. And if you have any questions, you can always give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'll be glad to help you out with planning your load. Thanks, take care, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next video.